Hey there, Sunbeams. In today's video, we're talking about how to make soap without lye while I make some cute soap samples. So let's get into it. Let's cut right to the chase. You're probably watching this video because you've done some research and are interested in making soap, but you're nervous about using lye or sodium hydroxide. Rightfully so. Using a chemical like lye can be scary for the first time. But I'm sorry to break it to you. It's impossible to make soap without lye, but there are some ways you can get around it. First, we need to understand what soap making entails. At its core, the traditional soap making is a beautiful science that turns fats or oils and an alkali, specifically lye, into soap and glycerin through a process called saponification. Yes, my friends, lye is the magic ingredient here. Without it, there's no soap, as sodium hydroxide kickstarts the chemical reaction that transforms fats into the cleansing bars we use every day. Now let's talk about some soap making misconceptions. There's a bubbling myth that suggests you can make lye from soap. However, let's set the record straight. This is simply not possible. Lye, either sodium hydroxide for solid soaps or potassium hydroxide for liquid soaps, is a precursor in the soap making process, not a byproduct. The confusion might stem from the recycling or rebatching of soap scraps, which, although a wonderful way to minimize waste, doesn't equate to making lye from soap. These scraps already contain lye from their initial creation. So why is lye a non-negotiable in traditional soap making? The answer lies in the chemistry of saponification. Lye acts as a necessary catalyst, converting fats into soap. Without this reaction, there is no soap, just a greasy, oily mess. It's crucial, though, to approach lye with respect and caution, wearing protective gear and following safety protocols to avoid any chemical mishaps. Now, for those of you thinking, but I want to make soap without handling lye directly, don't worry. There's a safe and simple alternative called melt and pour soap making. Melt and pour soap bases have already undergone the saponification process, so you can skip handling lye altogether. You simply melt the pre-made base, add your favorite fragrances, colors, and additives, and pour it into molds to create personalized soaps. It's a great way for beginners to dip their toes into soap making without diving into the deep end of chemical reactions. So when people talk about making soap without lye, they're really talking about using melt and pour soap, which is a very important distinction to make. Someone has already done the hard work of handling the lye solution for you, so you don't have to worry about it, which is why it's a great beginner option and fun activity for children. Now let's talk about the different methods of soap making, the pros and cons to help you figure out which method is probably the better fit for you. So going back to melt and pour soap base, it is honestly loved by all because of its simplicity and it's so beginner friendly. It makes it an ideal starting point for beginners and especially eager children that want to get involved in soap making. The process involves melting a pre-made soap base, which comes in a lot of tints and shades and varieties. You can get them from Amazon, Hobby Lobby, Michaels, and just about any hobby craft store. You can customize the pre-made base with your choice of scents, colors, and additives, which makes it super fun to use. So the pro is that melt and pour soap base is very quick. With your creations ready to use once it's cooled, it's very safe as there's no need to handle lye directly, and it's highly customizable on the aesthetic front. Cons, on the other hand, your control over the soap's formulation is very limited to what's available in pre-made bases, and the end product can sometimes lack the same rustic charm and bespoke qualities of traditional soap making methods. I personally try to use environmentally friendly, palm-free soap bases, and those are very, very hard to come by, especially in smaller quantities. So if that's something that's important to you, then finding and doing your research on the soap base that's perfect for you, that doesn't have any nasty stuff in it, is really going to be very, very important. So now let's cool things down with the cold process method, which is what a lot of soap makers notoriously use. Even I do here at Illawan Soaps. This is when you see all of our videos, we use the cold process soap method. It's the only method I've ever really done. I've dabbled in melt and pour, but cold soap is my tried and true. It's where I am most comfortable. So, cold process soap making is the traditional approach, which involves mixing lye with water and oils or liquid, then bringing that mixture to trace before pouring it into molds to set. Now, for pros, it offers complete control over ingredients. You can pretty much do or make whatever you want with it. So, this allows for a wide range of customization, from the soap's texture to its skin benefits to its fragrances to its additives. You can really, if you can think of it, you can make it. It also provides a truly hands on experience, which is probably going to be appealing to those of you who love crafting from scratch. The cons, on the other hand, it does require a good understanding of the saponification process and safe handling of lye. There's also a significant curing time. On average, it's a 4 to 6 week window, requiring a bit of patience and planning. But this 4 to 6 week curing window is really just a general rule of thumb. It's not a hard, fast rule. It's something that's going to be dictated by your formula. And some point of distinction here is very important to understand, which causes quite a bit of confusion in the soap making community, is the difference between curing and saponification and when soap is safe to use. So your soap should, on average, if it is properly formulated and made properly, it should be between 7 and about 10 on the pH scale. That is when a proper bar of soap is made. Usually 7 and 9, 10 gives you a little bit of wiggle room, but ideally 7 and 10 on the pH scale. So saponification is that chemical process that happens, okay? It's like we mentioned before, it's the chemical process of turning oils and fats into a solid bar of soap. So what is curing? Curing is that time where your soap is resting and it is drying out. That's all it is. A lot of people think that because you have this curing window that your soap is not safe to use. Your soap is safe to use if it is made properly. Saponification usually only takes 24 to 48 hours. If your soap is properly formulated, then there is no leftover sodium hydroxide in the bar. Okay, and that causes a lot of confusion. So I want to make that very important distinction. Okay, saponification happens within 24 and 48 hours. After that point, your bar is safe to use. So why do we cure for an extended period of time? Really, it's only to extend the longevity of the bar. Depending on your formulation, you may have quite a bit of water in your bars, and you need time for that water to evaporate so you can have a harder bar, because a harder bar means a bar that lasts longer, which means less soap you're making, right? And so when you're curing for that 4 to 6 week period, you're really just letting the water evaporate and you're allowing the pH to settle a little bit. But as I mentioned before, if your soap is properly formulated and all your measurements are correct, after that saponification window of about 24 to 48 hours, your soap is perfectly safe to use. Now, if you do have any issues with your soap, say you do experience some irritation, your bars are crumbly or anything like that, then you might have an issue with your formulation. Your soap might be lye heavy, okay? And that's where it's helpful to do a pH test. They aren't tried and true, but they do help you get an idea of where your soap is at, and you can get pH litmus tests off of Amazon. As you take on your soap making journey, consider what aspects matter most to you: speed, safety, customization, or the hands-on experience. Remember, the beauty of soap making lies in experimentation and discovery. Don't be afraid to try different methods until you find the one that truly resonates with your crafting spirits. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the world of soap making. If you're inspired to start your own soapy creations or have more questions, don't hesitate to drop a comment below. And of course, for more DIY adventures and tips, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to Ilawan Soaps. If you want to see how I bounced back from a mishap that I made with one of my soapy creations, check out this video here. You're sure to like it. I hope you have a great day. I hope you're doing well. And with that, I'll see you soon.